Hello and welcome to this episode of the Climate Economy from The Hindu. I am Kunal Shankar. It is no secret that India is betting big on renewable energy. This push is driven by the ambition to reduce the country's heavy dependence on fossil fuels, mainly coal. But it is also to meet India's 500 gigawatt RE capacity goal by 2030 and its net zero ambitions by 2070. Recent government data shows India's total installed electricity capacity crossed 484 gigawatts at the end of June, of which over 242 gigawatts, or more than half, constituted renewables and nuclear energy 5 years ahead of target. Data shows this impressive growth is mainly driven by rapid growth in wind and solar power in the past 11 years. While this is indeed a milestone to celebrate, in the past few years we have also seen a growing divergence between installed renewable energy capacity versus the actual power output from these facilities. Let us break this down and look at the renewable energy boom. India pledged to meet 50% of its energy requirements from renewables at the COP26 climate summit in Glasgow in November 2021. As I said before, this pledge also included reaching 500 gigawatts of non fossil fuel electricity capacity by 2030 and achieving net zero emissions by 2070. Many of you may know this already. Net zero refers to the attempt to remove as much carbon from the atmosphere as has been emitted by human activity. Now, Power Minister Prahlad Joshi says five key priorities are driving India's clean energy transition. Among them are robust power purchase agreements, growing grid and storage systems, domestic manufacturing of components, land use optimization, and better access to finance. Going by the minister's recent announcement, you might think that more than 50% of our power now comes from renewables. But no, the reality is far from it. Over 66% of electricity continues to come from heavily polluting coal fired power plants. The coal ministry itself has said that coal, which is indeed a highly efficient fossil fuel, remains key to sustaining strategic heavy industries like cement and steel. This dependence is also seen in coal production and carbon dioxide emissions from thermal power plants. The all India production of coal during the last financial year, which is 2024-25, was 147 million tons, growing 11.71% from the previous year. But when we look at emissions, carbon dioxide from coal burning power plants has jumped almost 50% since 2015. From 885 million tons in 2015, it has now jumped to almost 1300 million tons in the last financial year. In other words, even as India makes steady progress with renewables capacity additions, for now, these facilities are dead assets, so to speak, as they have not contributed to power production. So, what will it take for India to switch to renewable sources of energy? Power sources like wind, solar, and large dams are dependent on favorable weather conditions. Electricity from these sources may not be available throughout the year to meet peak demand situations. So, renewables do not provide steady power year round, which is necessary for the grid stability and to meet India's growing power needs. This is where the role of energy storage projects becomes critical in ensuring renewables flow into the country's power grid. Energy storage capacity can be broadly classified into two categories: pumped energy storage systems, that are hydro based projects like dams, and the other, which is rechargeable battery based energy storage systems. The importance of building robust storage systems was stressed by the minister himself. Prahlad Joshi said in his own words, "Our renewable capacity is growing fast. We are adding about 25 to 30 gigawatts every year. But without storage systems, we will either waste that energy or fall back on coal when renewables dip. Battery systems are how we make our grid strong, stable, and smart. Now, this capacity development has been rather slow in India. It stands at a meager 505 megawatt hours or 205 megawatts, far lower than the power that is generated from renewables. The Central Electricity Authority estimates that India's energy storage capacity requirement is projected to be over 82 gigawatt hours by 2026-27. Now, by 2047, this requirement is expected to increase to a whopping 2,380 gigawatt hours due to rapid growth in renewable energy installations. In pumped storage systems, water is pumped from the lower to the upper reservoir during periods of low electricity demand and abundant renewable generation, such as daytime solar surplus or wind power. And during peak demand or when renewables are in short supply, the stored water is released back to the lower reservoir through turbines, which then generates electricity. The CEA has estimated the on-river pumped storage hydro potential in India to be about 103 gigawatts. The Power Ministry informed Parliament in July that 10 pumped storage systems with an aggregate installed capacity of over 6 gigawatts have been commissioned so far, and another over 8 gigawatt worth projects are under construction. While over 5 gigawatt has been constructed, 36 more projects with an aggregated capacity of 64.8 gigawatts are under survey and investigation for preparing detailed project reports. However, building such mega projects has several challenges, like the cost and delays in acquiring land and getting environmental clearances. Huge costs are involved when people affected by such projects have to be compensated and rehabilitated. This is why building battery storage systems become crucial. These battery systems store surplus energy generated from different sources, largely from renewables like sun and wind, and release it to the grid when needed. But building battery based systems also face certain challenges. These systems have a limited life cycle and tend to degrade over time. There are also concerns about India's import dependence on elements like lithium for battery production. The center has admitted that investments in manufacturing and overall value additions for advanced chemistry cells are negligible in India, and almost the entire domestic demand of ACCs is still being met through imports. While actual progress remains slow, the center claims that plans are afoot to add over 47 gigawatts of BESS capacity with an estimated investment of about 3.5 lakh crore by 2032. Programs like the Viability Gap Funding Scheme have been notified by the Power Ministry to boost investments in BESS projects. The 5,400 crore VGF or the Viability Gap Funding Scheme aims to attract 33,000 crore worth investments to build projects worth 30 gigawatt hours. The government claims the scheme would meet India's energy storage requirements by 2038. Looking at the scale of investments needed, India must manufacture advanced batteries in really large numbers. To boost domestic production of such batteries, the center is implementing the National Program on Advanced Chemistry Cells with an aim to build production capacity of 50 gigawatt hours by 2026. While these schemes and their objectives sound ambitious, their outcomes remain to be seen. As of August 2025, the Centre informed Parliament that 40 gigawatt hours ACC capacity has already been awarded to 4 companies. The 40 gigawatt hour capacity is end use agnostic and can be utilized for any application, including e vehicles and stationary energy storage systems, apart from consumer electronics, rail, defense, etc. Another 10 gigawatt hour capacity has been earmarked for grid scale stationary storage applications. The Centre is also implementing the National Critical Mineral Mission with a proposed expenditure of 16,300 crore till 2031. This scheme aims to enable domestic production of critical and strategic minerals. Under this scheme, the Centre kicked off the auction of 23 mineral blocks across 13 states on September 23rd. Kabil, a joint venture PSU, has signed an exploration and development agreement with Cayman, another state-owned enterprise of Catamarca province of Argentina, for exploration and mining of 5 lithium brine blocks in that country with an area of around 15,703 hectares. Another key challenge in enhancing the use of renewable energy is building a stable electricity grid. The grid is a complex network with generation, storage, and transmission infrastructure. The intermittent nature of renewable energy and the lack of enough storage infrastructure create challenges in grid operations. This leads to grid instability due to voltage fluctuations. Upgrading India's decades-old transmission and grid infrastructure is key to fully integrate renewable power and realize India's renewable energy goals. And so, while this rapid expansion of renewables capacity is a good start, this must be accompanied by several other downstream measures for India to meaningfully decarbonize its sprawling and growing energy sector. Indeed, while India could take comfort in the fact that it is not alone in facing this challenge, it has an opportunity to lead globally. As the United States, the world's second largest power producer and consumer following China, retreats from its energy decarbonization commitments. And that's all we have on this episode of the Climate Economy. If you like this video and would like to hear more about how climate change is reshaping our economies, do hit the bell icon on the Hindu's YouTube channel and do write to us. Or better still, send us a video recording of your questions to climateeconomy@thehindu.co.in and we will do our best to feature them and to get them answered. Bye for now.